Do you struggle to keep dates, times, and events all straight in your brain and how they all fit together? In this video, I'm going to show you 3 simple ways that you can represent those visually. Now, the first way you can visually represent events, times, and places is by using a simple timeline. You can take a yardstick, or if you're going to have students do it on a piece of paper, just a ruler, mark out a line, make sure you mark out even intervals for the years, and you can do it either by 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, whichever type of time period you're trying to cover, and then simply put the events where they belong on each timeline. Now, this is really simple and works great for younger students, or if you're just trying to introduce the main concepts of an idea, and it concentrates more on the actual date as opposed to the linkage between events, which leads us to our second method of visually representing time, and that's with what I call a time web. And a time web is simply a timeline, but now you are connecting all of the different events. And this is really how time actually works, when you put events and you can link them to each other and other things that have happened throughout history. Now, with a time web, you're not so much worried about specific dates as you are linkage between events. And you can use something I like to call an anchor date. For instance, in US history, I would use July 4th, 1776 as an anchor date, the date we signed the Declaration of Independence. But from there, I'm more concerned with the linkage between those things. For example, I'm not as concerned if a student can tell me that the Boston Tea Party happened on December 16th, 1773. I'm more concerned if they can tell me how it is linked to the Tea Act, how it's linked to the East India Trading Company, how it's linked to the French and Indian War, and how it's linked to the American Revolution. If they can't tell me the exact date of those things, that's okay, as long as they know how those things fit together within our time web. If you'd like to know more about a time web, you can check out the show notes below, where I have a link to a blog post that I did on a time web and exactly what it looks like and how to make it work. And the third way that you can visually represent time, places, and dates is through an electronic timeline. And I'm gonna head on over to the computer and show you what that looks like. So now that we're at our computer, I'm going to open up a Google slideshow and show you the way I like to do it so that I can share it with my students and they can manipulate the slides and build their own timeline or even their own time web. So the first thing I like to do is I will go to Slide, Edit Theme. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the very top slide. Sometimes you have things you need to erase. And I'm basically I'm editing the master slide, which means I'm going to put things that are in the background that the students cannot manipulate. So I'm going to start off with a simple line. I'll make it a little bigger. So the next thing I'm going to do is put in a couple anchor dates. And anchor dates are the dates that are really important that we need to know for certain. And then, as I mentioned in the time web portion, we can connect those different events, even if they're not exactly on the right date. We know how they interact. So I'm going to take a shape, I'm going to make it here and say this is the Declaration. And that is going to be on July 4th, 1776. So that's going to be my first anchor date. Now, your anchor dates do not have to be at the end of your timeline, but for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to put the Declaration of Independence here. I'm going to connect it with a line from the box to the timeline, and that is my first anchor date. And again, this is on the master slide, so this will not be manipulatable. I'm going to put another anchor date over here, and this is going to be the Constitution, and anchor it to the timeline. Now, again, this is all in the slide theme. So now what happens when I go back to the regular slideshow is these things are there, and they're, no matter what I do, I cannot manipulate them. They're in the background. So from here, that's what I would share inside Google Classroom if I was having students create their own timelines or their own time webs. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like, but students usually have a pretty good handle on how that works. What you or your students are going to want to do at this point is simply add more elements. So we'll put something in here. Now that I'm just on the regular slide, I can copy that, and we could put different events in here with whatever they are. So now what we can do is make this actually a time web by selecting the line function and drawing lines in between these different events and however they link to each other. So that's a really simple way that you can make timelines electronically, and you can have your students do it as well. Now I'm going to show you another way that you can make a timeline electronically, and this one's a little more involved, and it comes with a paid version. Right now I'm just going to show you the free version, which does have some limited features. So this is called TimeGraphics, and I'm simply going to click Create, and now I am given a timeline, and I can move this to whichever time period I need to do, and I can zoom way out so we can cover a lot of space, or I can zoom way in where we're covering down to months and actual days. So all depending on what you need for your timeline, you can do it on here. And like I said, this is the free version, so I believe you're limited to 2 timelines at once that you can save. So I'm going to click here just to put it in light so we can see a little better. And I'm going to just go ahead and mark out my life. So right here, I'm going to put an event, and the event happens on February 4th, 1982. And the event is I was born. Now, the really neat thing about this is we can change the position if we want it above and below. We can put the text on the side, in the middle. Blue is my favorite color, so we'll make my birth blue. And we can also change the text color if we wanted. So just a really cool way that you can make an electronic timeline. And then you can download that, you can snip it. And again, with the free version, you can do really neat timelines. And if you choose to go with the paid version, if timelines are just your jam, then you have a lot more options where you can add videos, you can add websites, all different kinds of things. Well, I hope you liked this video, and if you got some value, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. And also you can check right here, and there's going to be some more Teacher PD videos.